No, I haven't gone crazy and bought 40 kilograms of computers. This is one massive channel donation, and what we've decided to do with it is try and raise some money for charity. Everything in this box is something to do with Sinclair. It might be computers or parts or books or games or peripherals, and I'm going to fix it up as much as I can for you here on the channel. We're going to sell it to try and raise money for Special Effect. Special Effect is a fantastic cause, and I'm going to show you a 1-minute video now which explains what they're all about.
Nobody likes being left out. That's why Special Effect are helping people with physical disabilities to play video games. But this isn't just about having fun. The gaming setups we create are personalised, so people can play to the very best of their abilities. And that opens the door to inclusion and independence, confidence and creativity. Help us level the playing field and create more magical gaming moments. Because it's everyone's turn to play.
I think that's a cause we can all get behind. Keep an eye out on eBay. As soon as I click go on this video, I'm going to click go on a few auctions for the things that I've fixed up in this video. There'll be more videos in the future where I fix up other things which are in the box, and those will also go to the same pot for Special Effect. So let's get on with it. We've got a lot of bits to sort out and a lot of computers to fix up. One last thing before I forget. As many of you know, this channel is sponsored by PCBWay, and they very kindly agreed to sponsor this charity video as well, so I'll be donating my sponsorship fee straight to the charity to kick off the Just Giving page. I'll be going straight there after filming this to get some ZX printer replacement drive belts 3D printed, you'll find out why in the video, as well as some more of our ZX Spectrum issue 2 UV mod boards, because those things went like hotcakes, so I'm going to get a bunch more of them, and the next revision of my Spectrino ZX Spectrum interface. And I have full confidence that PCBWay will deliver all of these in good time to an extremely high standard. Starting with the parts, we have 6 Traco voltage regulators, 2 wireless Picos and 2 Pico 2s, a Spectrum Issue 3 DC-DC mod kit, a couple of bags of keyboard connectors, 5 ZX81 recap kits, bags and bags of screws for various types of Spectrum, 2 ZX Interface 1 cap kits, more DC-DC mod kits, a whole load of upper RAM, lower RAM and LM1889 chips, uncut edge connectors, DIL sockets, ZX Spectrum Plus feet, a big pile of various ceramic disc capacitors, 4 ZX Spectrum Issue 2 recap and composite mod kits, a bag full of heat sinks for 40-pin dip sockets, a load of felt pads for the ZX Spectrum stilts, trimmers, DIL sockets, mono sockets and jacks, 48K upgrade kit with a PCB and a little bit of solder, bags of transistors, a Retrolium ZX Spectrum ROM chip with a switch to select between 2 different ROM images, a reproduction ZX81 PCB, cool, that'll be fun. A ZX Harlequin PCB, untouched, ready to build. 100 transistors, ZX Spectrum Plus keyboard membrane, ZX Spectrum keyboard membrane, ZX81 keyboard membranes, speakers, case parts, more case parts, plugs, more plugs, joystick interfaces, Competition Pro joystick, that's a good one, microdrives, interface ones, this one's gone a bit melty, oh no, this thing, a ZX printer hiding underneath my hand, a cuddly toy, an Issue 4A ZX Spectrum 48K PCB, rubber key mat, an empty 48K case, an Issue 3 PCB with an old ULA, another Specky, a Specky Plus, 5 ZX81s, a 16K RAM pack, a box of 4 microdrive cartridges, which is basically new. Look, it's got the stickers, it's got the little notepad. I don't think any of these has been opened yet. ZX81 polys with some bucks and plugs and things. An Issue 6A 48K PCB. This one says corrupt, oh dear. A cassette deck. The Spectrum 6-pack. A really nice box ZX Spectrum Plus, we'll have a look at that one today. Look how clean those polys are. And the machine's clean too, and it's got games and the original PSU, wow. A slightly less mint condition ZX Spectrum Plus in a box, with also nice polys, and the computer and the plug inside, lovely. A Data 5000 briefcase thing with a 48K inside and some bits and bobs like a printer and some games and a power supply. Scrabble and Robocop with the poster, amazing. Some books like this ZX Spectrum Plus user manual which has the order form in the back still taped in. More books of various kinds and more books and a couple more books and some guides and a catalogue and some more books. And some AV cables. So what's the plan? Well, I'm going to fix up the 3 biggest items just to be merciful to my storage limitations, starting with this really nice looking ZX Spectrum Plus. The box is in really good condition, best one I've seen I think, and the polys are super crispy white without pen written all over it and without chunks ripped out of it. So we're going to fix this up as much as is needed to get it up and running and nice and reliable, and we will sell it in the box, in the polys, with those games, with that plug, and maybe with some other bits and bobs bundled with it. But we're most interested on this channel in the electronics, so let's get this case open and see what we're faced with. There are a bunch of screws around the outside of the case and one long tapered screw in the top middle to remove. Let's remove that, and being careful of the keyboard membrane ribbon cables here, we'll get the top off and have a look. And it's looking like this has already had some work done. This looks like a new keyboard membrane to me, which is good news. And the board appears to have new capacitors, there's a heatsink on the ULA, and there's a composite mod that's been done. Also there's a switching voltage regulator installed. I think this has already had the works. Let's do our initial tests anyway. We're just checking the resistance of the 3 voltage supplies to the lower RAM chips to ground, and none of those is looking like it's too low or too high. Current draw looks good, and our voltage is a -5, which means we almost definitely have 12, yes, and that means we almost definitely have 5 volts, yes. Good, we have all our voltages. So let's have a look at what sort of a picture we're getting out of it, and that's fine. That's the picture we want, and it looks good to me. So we'll rattle through all the diagnostic tests just to be sure, and it's passing the memory tests, which is great news. We'll also check the keyboard is working correctly, and all the keys are working. A few more extra checks on the ULA, and I'm happy. This board is fine. We can even play Treasure Island Dizzy straight out of the box. Fancy that. We should quickly check that the M1 line is working on the Z80, and I do this by plugging in the div MMC and just powering up, see if the div MMC boots correctly, and yeah, it does. Lovely. Let's dip into the supplies which we got in this donation and put in some new motherboard screws because it didn't have all of its motherboard screws, and reassemble it. I found some of these keyboard backplate screws were a little bit loose, so let's tighten them up, put everything back together again, and we'll give it a quick retest, make sure that nothing slipped while we've been putting it back together. Keyboard still works and it still passes the diagnostic tests. Let's have a quick look at the 3-pin plug because you get all kinds of surprises in here, and this one actually does have a 3 amp fuse, which is right, they haven't just left a 13 amp fuse in. It has the cable grip and it's wired correctly, although I think the live and the neutral are a little bit long. The live and neutral pins are sleeved as well, so I don't think I'm going to replace this head. I am, however, going to check that it's kicking out the right voltage, should be about 12 volts, and it is. Nice. I'll repeat the diagnostic tests with this plug just to be sure. So let's bundle all of this up. I'm going to put in this nice user guide with the catalogue order form in the back, including this peripherals catalogue, our ear and mic cable for audio loading, which does work by the way. I'm going to put in a composite video cable instead of the RF antenna cable because we have the composite mod on this board. There's our power supply, which we've tested and is fine, and of course we're going to put in our machine. And if you ask me, that's a very tidy little package for a good working clean Spectrum. So that's going to be on eBay. Have a look at the link in the description at the end of this video if you want it, and dig deep, it's for charity people. I'll even throw in the ZX Spectrum 6-pack as well with this bundle. Well, I feel like I got off too easy with that first one, so let's open up the second one and see if it needs a bit more work. The case does need a cleanup, so that shouldn't be a problem, we've done that lots of times before, and it looks like the board is in need of a service. The reset switch is soldered onto the underside of the board, so we'll remove that to make working on it a little bit easier. We'll do our initial tests, which is checking the resistance of the 3 voltage supplies to ground, and we were getting something like 2 mega ohms and then 200 ohms on the 12 volt line, and the 5 volt line is giving us something in the kilo ohms range, so nothing close to 0, that's what we want to see. Doing a quick current draw test, I'm going to hook it up to the bench power supply, and we're drawing about 600 milliamps, which is fine. So I can take my time now and measure the voltages, and we're getting minus 5.1, which is well within tolerance, 11.9, also good, and 4.95, lovely. And let's look at the video output, and it looks really good. The machine appears to be working. Running a quick diagnostic test, and it passes all the memory tests. Well, even though it doesn't need repairing, we're still going to have to service it and clean up the case, which is a fair amount of work. Let's take the heatsink off, and I'll be putting a switching regulator on it anyway, since we got loads of those in our donation, and now we can start changing the capacitors for new ones. Oh, before we do that, a quick test to see that the M1 line is working, and yes, the div MMC works. So let's do these capacitors. I like to work in a vise to remove the old ones, starting by cutting one leg of all of the old capacitors to come out. Then we can simply heat the joints on one side and pull the capacitors out from the other side, using tweezers or snips to pull the remaining legs out. Then we need to clear the joints with a solder sucker, and we can put in the new capacitors. Obviously being careful to put the right value capacitors in the right locations, in the correct orientation. These are polarized electrolytic capacitors after all. Once they're all replaced, we can just plug it in and make sure that we haven't bollocksed anything up. And, always a bit nerve-wracking, yeah, it's looking good. I said I wanted to replace the voltage regulator with one of these Traco switching ones, so we'll do that now, making sure it's nice and straight and aligned with the edge of the board. And quick test to make sure that it's still working. Don't see why it wouldn't be. Yeah, it's fine. Okay, important job here, let's clean the edge connector. I like to use a fiberglass pen and then just wipe it off with some alcoholic spirit. And with that done, we can pop the lid back on the RF modulator and pop a heatsink onto the ULA. So I've cleaned it, and I'm going to use the sticky back tape which was provided on this heatsink. Now onto the case. Let's first of all disassemble it, because I want to put a new keyboard membrane in. Even if this old one might have some life left in it, I think it's best to put a new one in and make sure it's good for years to come. So lots of screws to remove this back plate, and there's a little insulating piece of cardboard too. That's good, that's not always there. We'll throw that away and remove the little bubble mat, which is another important piece of this assembly, and we're ready to try and clean the top half of this case. So pulling each of the keys off, we're going to pop them in the sink in a load of hot soapy water, give it some time to soak, and then clean them all off with a cloth before returning them to the case. As you can see, it is a bit grimy under there, so I'm glad I'm doing this. Do you know, I always thought the pattern on the underside of these keys looked familiar. I can't quite put my finger on why. After a nice soapy bath, we could put this keyboard back together. I gave each of the individual keys a clean with a cloth, and everything looks a lot less grimy than it did before. This task seems to always take me absolutely ages, so if anyone has any tips, let me know. I have been tempted to put these in the dishwasher before, but I don't want to risk damaging anything. Anyway, in goes the new keyboard membrane. We'll fasten up this metal backplate. You can get plastic backplates as well, but obviously the metal ones are sturdier, a bit more rigid, and I think they result in a better keyboard. So the keys are all springy now that it's all put together. Now we can put our legs back in. We'll need to put a couple of felt pads on the bottom of them in a minute, and the two stilts which support the top of the case. They go in like that, before finally putting in our refurbished PCB. Lovely. We still need to reattach the reset switch. I'm going to put it on the top side of the board, either side of this capacitor. Doesn't really matter which way you do it. And we just pop the switch in there like that. I'll dig out some more of these proper motherboard to case screws, fix the board to the case, and we can put the top half back on, carefully putting the ribbon cables of the new keyboard membrane in place, and we have a almost fully reassembled Spectrum. A quick round of diagnostic tests now that I've built it all back together, because you never know what might have been knocked out of place, and everything seems to be running smoothly. I'm going to dig out my tape recorder and just check that it's also loading from audio. I did do this check on the other machine as well, I just didn't film it, and we're trying out the RoboCop game which was part of this donation. And it loaded fine, which is great. It proves that the audio loading is working on this ULA, well this Spectrum, and that the RoboCop game is working, which is nice. So now I can put this case back together with some of these new screws which came in the donation, and I'm going to replace these felt pads on the bottom of the feet, first cleaning the old glue off and then sticking on the new pads. Other than that, I think we just need to box this back up, and we've got another lot to be sold for the charity. Although the plug does need a new plug head going on for this one, so let me just rewire this UK 3-pin plug on YouTube, and oh damn, I must have taped over it with whole movies of the cat. But rest assured, every single one of you will be happy with the way I did the job. Okay, so let's test it out and see what voltage it's giving out. We're hoping for 12 volts. And yeah, pretty much bang on 12 volts. That's great. Time to bundle this one up. So I've got the polys here, and I've put the E and mic cable in, a bunch of games, I've dug out some extra ones as well. There's the manual, and we'll put the Happy Little Diodes no tamper sticker of approval on the case. I need to do that on the other one as well, don't I? There's our power supply going in, and I did rerun the diagnostic tests with that, powering the machine, and there it is, all boxed up. So where does that leave us? Well, we have the Data 5000 briefcase to sort out. Let's do that one today as well. We're going to have to take this thing to bits because all the cables were left plugged in, which is never a bad thing. It saves the sockets from rusting over time. This aerial lead is pretty well in there, so yeah, there we are, it's out. Quite a nice little selection of games in this, and I think I'll keep them in there when I sell this on. So, including Manic Miner, that's a good one. This plug will need a new head. I want one that's got sleeved live and neutral pins. There was a ZX printer in there as well, and this is the machine that we're interested in. It's a little bit worse for wear, it does have all its feet, and the first plate looks pretty neat. Let's get into it and see what's on the inside. Just 5 screws to remove on these little 48K rubber keys, and the keyboard membrane was still attached. It is an original one though, and I'm going to replace it just for longevity's sake. It's an issue 2 spectrum, as given away by the presence of 2 variable resistors and the presence of a heatsink in the bottom right of the board. We've got quite a bit of work to do here. We're going to have to recap it, do a DC-DC mod, change the regulator, and I'm going to put in the UV video mod as well to get rid of those variable resistor trimmers. All that, as well as changing the keyboard membrane on this case, which has a glued down faceplate, will make for a good afternoon of work, I would say. So, checking our resistances as usual from these 3 voltage supplies to ground, and nothing seems particularly out of order, so I'm happy to plug it in with the current limiting bench power supply. The current draw looked okay to me, so I'm happy to measure the voltages. -5 is giving -4.6 and dropping, which is within tolerance. Plus 12 is 11.87, that's good, and 5 volts is pretty close to 5 volts, all good. Let's do a super quick composite video mod so we can see what the video output is doing. This involves removing the RF modulator, which is the brown block of circuit board in the top left of the board inside the metal case, and bypassing it via a 100 microfarad capacitor. Now we should have a composite video signal that we don't need to tune in with RF, and we'll have a look at what kind of picture we're getting. As you can see, it's completely yellow, which is normal for an issue 2 that hasn't had the colour tuned, and here I'm running a diagnostic test because I'm not interested in tuning the colour just yet. I want to get the thing working, and we can see that we're getting upper RAM failures. Later on we're going to remove the need to tune this board by adding a UV video mod board. So what do we need to do? We need to check the ICs IC18 and IC20. According to the diagnostic ROM, I ran it a couple of times and it gave me the same result, so we're going to remove those RAM chips. I'm going to be using the Moo gun to remove them, and it helps to add a bit of fresh solder to the joints, which we're going to be clearing out, so I'm doing that now. If I was more certain that these chips were bad, I would have probably just cut them out, but let's take them out and test them neatly. So by using the solder sucker, a manual hand solder pump, and a bit of pin wiggling, I was able to remove both of these chips without too much protest. When replacing chips, I'm a big advocate of putting sockets in, so that in future you can rework those chips if needed again without too much fuss. So we'll get those in and then give these 2 chips that we removed a quick test. This chip tester's really nifty, it was a very generous donation to the channel, cheers Wayne. And what it does is, it tests the RAM chips using a tiny little Arduino, and it does flashy until you get a tick or a cross, and these 2 chips were resulting in a cross, which means they're no good. So with those 2 chips replaced, we were passing the upper RAM tests, and I was happy to move on to the service jobs, starting with replacing all of the electrolytic capacitors. We've done enough of this for one day, so you don't need to watch me recap this whole machine. Let's skip ahead a bit. I did say that I wanted to remove the variable resistors from the issue 2. To do that, we'll upgrade the video circuit to that of a later issue board which has a kind of self-leveling circuit. This is incorporated into a tiny little modification board which you can buy through PCBWay. So here's the little board sitting in place with the components removed which we needed to remove. It's going to go in with a few headers and a couple of fly leads. There's the first couple of leads in place and the headers fitted. And the third lead in which provides ground to the board. Now we just need to put an extra resistor in to provide a bias level to the LM1889 chip. And that's the mod complete. We should have a lovely picture now with all the right colours without us having to do any tuning. The two trimmer caps above the mod board can be used to adjust the dot crawl effect, but we don't need to tune the colours. Next up, we'll modify the power circuit to make it more reliable. This just involves changing one resistor and adding a capacitor. I'm also going to fit one of the switching Traco regulators which was provided in this donation. I always find this DC mod's really fiddly trying to get the capacitor to sit between the other capacitor and the resistor. And if you've done it before, you'll know. But here we are, it's finished now, just about. I did notice in the last minute that the DC power socket was damaged, so I'll put a fresh one in. Luckily I've got a drawer full of these, and I love putting a fresh one of these on. They're always much more satisfying to plug in than the old ones. But we're not finished yet. We're going to clean the edge connector and we need to fit our new keyboard membrane, and we got one of them in the donation box as well, so in that goes. Then we just pop the rubber key mat back on top and replace the faceplate. I'm going to put it back in the case now and run some tests. As expected, we've got a lovely picture, no tuning required, and it's passing all of the diagnostic tests. Fantastic. I'm going to replace the head on the plug again because it's not got the sleeved pins and it wasn't wired very well. So let's I've done it again. Can you believe it? I've filmed over it again. Damn, and I really thought I did the best wired plug ever that time. You wouldn't have believed it. Anyway, spilt milk and all of that. I've rewired it and let's check the voltage, and it's about 12, so that's good. I gave it another round on the diagnostic tests, and we're going to try some tape loading now to check that this ULA can hear properly. Sometimes these older ULAs can get a bit hard of hearing, but this one seems to load fine, at least with my good data recorder. And just check out this intense horse racing action. Fantastic. I do need more practice though. I haven't quite got the knack of the jumping part. Anyway, I gave the ZX printer a try and it just did this. One for another day maybe. I should add that I've decided not to put a heatsink on the ULA on this board because it's in a 48K case and I'd have to remove the ULA and reattach it to the board to do so. My opinion changes on whether or not it's worth doing this daily, and this time I've decided against it. Now it's time to reassemble this briefcase with a few select bits and bobs to go with this computer, starting with the power supply, which I guess is intended to go into this hole here. I can bundle up the plug and put it in the top left there. And I guess the DC side of the power supply runs through this little channel underneath the specky, so I'll put that across there and pop the specky on top, and we can just leave it plugged in. I think the idea with this case is you can kind of run the whole thing from within the case, so it's like a portable computer. So I'll just bundle this wire up and stick it neatly somewhere. We've got a few games to put in there, including Manic Miner, of course the video cable, and I'll put the ear and mic cable in there too, in the same little compartment. I don't think there's actually a space in this case for a printer. I've dug out a few extra games just to fill all the spaces in here, and I had a thought, what about bundling that Competition Pro joystick with this lot? So let's find one of these joystick interfaces and see if it works. I got in a bit of a mess with this. I didn't realise that the Dandinator's pass-through connector on the back there doesn't work with the joystick interface. I guess it doesn't pass through all of the signals or something. So the joystick definitely worked fine with the Dandinator's joystick port, but none of the joystick interfaces worked when plugged into the back. So the only way I could really test it with a game is to load a game from audio. So I got the tape deck out again, decided to test this Manic Miner tape with one of these joystick interfaces in the back. And I'm pleased to say that the game worked and the joystick worked with the interface I was trying, so I'll be bundling that joystick and the interface in with this lot. And this is one of the better joysticks in my opinion because it has the micro switches in, so the main joystick of it is all clicky and satisfying to use. So let's pack it all away again for the last time well, until I have to take pictures for the eBay auction. We'll throw in the joystick interface and a couple of books. Let's put the basic programming book in and the introduction book. That'll be nice. And Scrabble. So that's it for this first video on this charity donation. The links are all set up in a description to the eBay auction, so Just Giving page and to Special Effects website. I'm going to go drop the first donation onto the page now, and I hope to see you there as well. Let's see if we can make a difference. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.